baby girl. 10 out of 10, get one of these watch bands. They're dope. HKS. Took 6 months to get 2 of them. $30. Pretty dope. Anyways, welcome to today's video. This box is from ARM Motorsports. They gave me an amazing deal on a whole bunch of parts. So our goal with this relocated inlet kit is to put it in for 1, to deal with the coolant dripping on the ground for 2, and for 3, we're going to be testing and trying to give them some improvements on this kit. So the thing that they don't have posted about online is if this will affect IATs in a good or a negative way, right? So the goal is, as I've already bought this hot side intake duct. This is from Turner Motorsports. This will be one of our tests that we'll use in the sense of we'll do one without this and then we'll do one with this to see if it's any better, and we'll give them some feedback. We're going to get feedback on how well the intake air temps are with this setup versus the stock one. When we did Pocono on a 50-degree day, my IATs were at tops 152 to 157, which is way too hot. So along with this kit, the inlet kit, and the outlet kit, which I've already installed, and I started to put the brackets and everything inside. Also got sent massive 7.5-inch intercooler that's apparently capable of 1,000 horsepower, and it's pretty freaking heavy. Honestly, it's probably like 30 pounds. And this, compared to our original little guy, is pretty substantial. Just like right here we got, I think it's like 3 inches of core right here, and then another 5 inches back here. And on this one we have about, I think it's 3 inches here, and you got like 1.5 inches, 2 inches of front core right here. Not to mention the height differences, not to mention on this one there isn't like a diversion to get air to the top of the oil or the intercooler. But on this one, I don't know if you could fully see into there because I have the clamp in, but there's a split, and the split into this pipe is what helps put air up here, so that way you actually get hot air on this side and cold air on that side, and it helps with the flow. Only problem is I'm still running stock turbos because I blew one at Pocono. Great. But that might not really be great for the stock turbos. We'll find out. We'll test it out. But hopefully it'll be better. So I guess step 1 is going to be get the rear portion in, because I hear putting in the rear one is the worst, even though the front one looks a lot more worse in my opinion. But you got to fish this thing in from the top, down and in, underneath the car, and up top of the car. And then this is where your PCV goes, because it gets relocated here, and they give you some like wire. And you have to extend one of the harnesses for the PCV, and they give you this tube to extend it, and then I gotta figure out what this piece is for. It's for something. Otherwise, along with that, I also installed a new thermostat water pump. I put new AN lines here and deleted one of the oil coolers because I thought it was doing more damage being in front of the actual intercooler. And then I have this relocated expansion tank from Turner Motorsports, and honestly I really like this kit. I was able to use my original charge pipe that I had with the HKS blow-off valve. It fits really good. You know, they include all the extra hoses and clamps to pull everything out of the way, which is down in here, and everything fits relatively good without hitting the fan. I think my only complaint so far with any of their products has just been that this intercooler piping, I don't know if it's just my case scenario because I'm using a VRSF charge pipe, but it was a real pain in the neck to get all of these clamps and all of these hoses and adapters and whatnot to get to the intercooler. I don't know, maybe it's just because I was using that VRSF input or charge pipe, just because it doesn't have as much angle on it like some of the other kits do. So, to start, we're going to put this heat shield in because it's got to be in before I put everything else in. And I made room down here so I can get to the front inlet on the turbo. I'm going to do that from underneath because you got to get the hose clamp on there. These also have the 1 3/4 to 2 inch adapters that ARM sells, because at the time I failed to mention I was running stock turbos, so that's kind of on me. And they don't have the 1 3/4 kit always in stock, so they sent me a 2 inch, so I had to buy those adapters. The adapters were annoying to put in because everything was already in, but you deal with it. You just got to do it. It's okay. It's fine. But yeah, so we'll start with that. I also recommend that you guys have like a little cap of oil, because what I do is I'll take a little dab of the oil on my finger and I'll rub it around the intercooler or the hoses, so when I put them on, I don't have to struggle to get them into place. And for whatever reason, this Rotella T6 decides to lock the pipes into place afterwards, so it kind of like glues them in there, so extra support, I guess. Not really what my intention was, but it worked. So yeah, I gotta flip this black bracket back around because I put it the wrong way, because I was like, oh, how does this fit? And now I gotta move a couple of the hose clamps that are down here, because this one's like aimed right where it's gonna go, and so is this one over here. So I gotta rotate those around and find them a new home. I'm gonna start there, and I'll check in repeatedly to show you the progress. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, because it is kind of late and Sam does need to get sleep at some point. So shout out Sam. Yeah, that's it. Let's get this underway.
2 hours later.
So this is the oil I was talking about. I rub it pretty religiously inside of this tube right here. So that way, when we go to slip these on, they just slip on with no problem. This is the front one, and I'm sure you could see that there's not a lot of room in there. So this is not going to be all that fun. But from what I've heard, putting the rear one in first is the worst part of it. So we're going to go ahead and put this rear one in. And where we're going to do that, if you follow me, oh shucks, I got to tighten that clamp still. Anyways, we're going to have to take this guy and fish it down and into here, like so, and follow all of the lines. And you just gotta kind of mess with it until you can wiggle it all in. I'm gonna do that off camera because I don't want to embarrass myself, and also I put this in and I need to tighten that clamp before I go ahead any further. But I will show you one thing real quick. Although I only have 3 of the 4 bolts in because I can't find the last one. But anyways, so this plate right here, in order to actually get this in, if you have these ARM outlets, I'd recommend that you loosen the clamp on the flange where the turbo meets all the way down there, and this clamp. So when you're putting this in, everything can kind of shift a little bit to my left, and I guess your left. But this is really hard to actually get in there because of the fact that these are so tight in the space now. It's because they're so much bigger than the stock ones. So take that little piece of advice so far, and I'll give you some more tips along the way, because yes, I'm looking at the instructions online, but I only looked at them for 2 seconds, so I could make this take way longer. But okay. So, dramatic pause. Got the rear one in, and I'm not gonna lie, if it wasn't for Sam, it would not be in. I don't think it's a design flaw or anything, but the fact that there's not that much room back there, and like it's nothing but like this much room for firewall and engine and turbo area, that when you're trying to feed this back through, you need somebody up top to like maneuver it back and then you have to grab the snout itself and pull it down, and then you got to rotate it. It's kind of annoying, but once we figured out like where the PCV has to go, that was probably the most important part. It's like you want to focus mainly on making sure that this has plenty of room, because this is going to dictate, you know, if it's seated properly. So this is seated good, then you can put your PCV in because it's got to go up and over and back through there. You should be pretty good at the end of it. I'm not looking forward to the front one because the front one has way less room to work with to get the clamp and everything in than the rear one does. I feel like the rear one was a lot easier, and I feel like the front one's going to take way longer. It might not, because it's a smaller pipe and it only has to rotate just un poquito. And it really just has to sit here. But feeding it in is going to be really annoying. But I removed most of the coolant lines that were in front of it so that we can get the most amount of room so I can get my hand in there. I still, well, the kit comes with this style worm clamp to put on those turbo inlet snouts. And I didn't use that on the back one because we got it finally on. It took like 20 minutes. It wasn't that long, but the clamp was in the way, so I had to pull this back open and out so I can get the clamp out of the way so that way the snout could come in and land where it had to. And then I couldn't get this to do the thing because it was such a tight fit. So we went with a typical like worm style clamp, kind of like these ones that aren't that fancy. And I think it'll be just fine because it's not like holding any boost. It's just sucking in air, and it's so stuck in there, I don't think it's ever going to have a problem with moving because it's stuck and wedged between the transmission bell housing and then the engine housing itself. And then you have the clamp holding it on. So I just don't think it's going anywhere, and I'm not really worried about it. But now, we got to move on to the front one.
20 minutes later.
Okay. This thing is stuck on here. Anyways, I got the second one in. I have gotten the inlets in, and it's like pretty sturdy. I'm not gonna lie, these didn't line up perfectly the first time, so I had to like really mess with them to get them to sit nicely. But they're exactly where they're supposed to be now. This guy back here was kind of a pain in the neck to get in. This is like the PCV adapter and the hose clamps down there. It's up against the valve covers. Not like totally happy with that, but it works. The only thing left now is to find the harness I dropped back here. Oh no. It's somewhere back here. I gotta extend the harness that's back there with this wire that comes with it. And then hook up my catch can. Because still have this part, which is good. But I gotta get this to connect to that along the firewall. And I might reposition this. I don't know. We'll see. Normally it's sat back here. Kind of like this. Kind of. But I gotta figure out if I have the tube long enough to reach all the way over to there so I can route it nicely. This one should be fine, although it's pretty twisted. Maybe just twist it like that. And that's that. That guy will just sit basically like right back over here again. And clip into that guy back there. Like so. This guy goes, this guy right here. We go back to the lobby. Or not. But yeah. So that's about it. If I start it, we won't really be able to hear anything over the non-downpipes part, but there will be a startup video soon. I need to make sure that that oil return line stops leaking, because one of them's leaking. I don't know why. They have brand new gaskets. I cleaned everything up real good. They're nice and snug and tight. It still wants to leak. Dope. Okay, so this will conclude the install of the ARM inlets, outlets, and now the intercooler. As a tip, to get this intercooler to fit, there's a plastic shroud that comes all the way up to here in the front. You basically have to cut that so it's completely straight, or you just cut it to the point where you can see your power steering cooler, because there's a power steering cooler down in here. And you're basically going to want that like relatively exposed in order to fit this all the way up. You're going to have to cut in here. I'll get a close up, but you're going to have to cut this other piece of the plastic shroud so you can get the intercooler on both sides to fit. But as for the ARM inlets and everything else, this is it. Now this is the extension for the PCV. I need to clean that up. Don't worry, I will. This is just for testing at the moment. I have my catch can installed all the way over there. Got the hoses properly ran. I guess I'll give you guys like a quick startup. You know, careful headphone users. It's gonna be fairly loud, and I apologize for that, but you know, it was like a nice little start. And you can already hear the turbos like a lot. Granted, I don't have downpipes on, so you'll hear. Honestly, the best part about that is that's only up to 2K. And yes, I know it's cold, so that's why I didn't really go crazy revving it. But I need to be able to check for coolant leaks, oil leaks, and everything else before I go and button up the downpipes. One of the oil return lines looks like it's leaking. I replaced the gasket and the O-rings and all of that. And I replaced all of the oil feed and coolant feed lines and the return lines except for the front return line, because this is a REIN, R-E-I-N, branded return line, and I could not get this to fit properly at all. And what I noticed was the OEM section has a lot more of this braided section compared to this one. So this makes it really hard to bend, and then if you watch, it kind of kinks when you get it to the right spot, because this has to like pretty much be like this. Actually, I'm sorry, it has to be like this all the way down from the turbo and everything else. So when it's like this, it's kinking and it's not mating very well, and I wasn't going to force it. So I put the original one back in, hoping for the best, and it looks like it's still just seeping out. It's not pouring out, so I don't know if maybe it just has to get hot and then let the gasket sealed, and maybe I'd have to snug it back up again. But regardless, these inlets so far sound pretty sick. I mean, I haven't had everything hooked up until now to obviously hear it, but those turbos are pretty freaking loud, and the intake side of it is also pretty freaking loud. So overall, the inlet side took about, right here, 10, 3, took about like 3 hours total to get in, but I was also looking for tools, and I had to relocate a couple other things so that this could fit, you know, nice in here. There's plenty of room. These inlets are honestly pretty good quality. No complaints. The hardest part probably was getting that rear inlet in with the hose clamp. So unfortunately, I used the worm gear style, as Sam put in the video. It was just a lot easier for me to get that in there. They're not going to be under boost. They're going to be sucking air, so I don't think they're going to have a chance of popping off or anything like that. So I'm not too concerned about using the worm gear style versus like the V-band style. Not the V-band, but these, I forget what the name of these are, to be honest. But typically everybody likes to use these because they do a really nice job of holding everything else together. The intercooler has all of these and everything like that, so it's alright. I'm not too concerned about it. It's doing its job. I need to put the engine mount back in, my fan back in, and swap the oil out, put the downpipes in, and the O2 sensors. Yes, I was revving it without the O2 sensors in. It seemed okay. I still need to relocate these vacuum, the boost hoses and everything. I'll do that another time. But anyways, thank you very much for watching me go through this experience of the install part of everything. I hope this kit works well. If you have any questions about installing the kit, feel free to ask. There's probably a bunch of stuff I missed. I do recommend that you guys grab that Turner relocation or expansion tank relocation kit. It made things a lot easier. I know you could use the 335D stuff, but I really liked how that one looked, and the power steering, reservoir just mounted right to it. Everything was super simple, and I was able to retain, the VRSF charge pipe with the HGAS blow-off valve. Sorry, it's pretty hot still, and I've been working for quite a few hours now. I'm super excited to drive this thing again. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait to get back on the track and see what this is like. Because now I missed a few events that were in Connecticut, and it kind of sucks, but you live and learn. You make weird discoveries, and then you hope to never have it again. I'm gonna hope that never happens again. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more content. I'll catch you in the next one.